Ashley, I'm so glad that we are finally doing this. I know there's been some bumps, it's mostly technology bumps, but so is the life. And I want to return back to our one-on-one. We sat down at a coffee shop, and our paths crossed, which was amazing because they do what they're supposed to do when it's supposed to happen. And when I learned about your practice and, in particular, this modality called brain spotting, I was definitely interested from someone who works with individuals who might have a fear of movement, fear of injury from, past experiences, chronic pain, or maybe they are competitive in nature and their sport or their activity has been claimed from them because there's something going on in their body and they almost lose this identity. So, Ashley's the owner of the growth chapter in Rocky Hill. And I would love for you to share about your practice and this whole brain spotting thing because it was definitely a new concept for me.
Yeah, hi. So thank you for having me. Ashley Chambrella. I'm a licensed marriage and family therapist in Connecticut. I have a group practice called the Growth Chapter in Rock Hill. And one of the things that I do with clients is I'm a brain spotting practitioner. So I have been for a handful of years, maybe, is when I first got introduced to brain spotting as a client, actually. Didn't know anything about it. I started doing it through my own work on my own trauma and back pain. Actually, I've had two spinal fusions, so I am no stranger to pain. And I started noticing that doing the brain spotting work really helped alleviate a lot of the physical symptoms and the emotional symptoms, right? So if you don't know about brain spotting, it was kind of born out of EMDR. So EMDR is another trauma treatment modality. And basically the premise is where you look affects how you feel. And I always add, and what information you can access. And so when you were just talking about like that fear of movement or, an injury might have happened and now that person's not able to do X, Y, and Z. When you were talking, I was just thinking like, yeah, and the emotions that are tied to that, right? And so brain spotting, we figure out where in the body an emotional dysregulation is coming up, right? So I have a fear that I'm going to hurt myself again when I go running. We access when you think about that fear. Where is that showing up in your body? Oh, my stomach gets tight and like my core, gets tense. And then we find where in the visual field. So people can kind of use their own intuition. And then I have like pointers and stuff so we can narrow down and fine tune. And you stay on a spot and you just process whatever kind of comes up. And so it may be memories, it may be an memory or experience, it may just be feelings. And it starts processing out. People can continue processing for like 24 to 48 hours after a session. And I will say, from going from being a talk therapist, doing more CBT kind of behavioral work to doing the more somatic based treatment, I see results much, much faster and results that stay.
Amazing. And to your point, that word somatic, I feel like it has really come to the forefront with movement practitioners, with therapists. People are like, I want to do somatic yoga or somatic therapy. And in essence, it's recreating communication between the brain and the body. But what I've learned, and please jump in and I'd love to hear your spin on things, but my understanding is that emotions don't speak word language. Emotions need to feel, and we can generate feeling
Mhm.
through movement, through sound, through humming, through moving your eyes. So sometimes there's this disconnect that when we have things that are in our body, we can't move them. We've done talk therapy or we've done fill in the
Yes,
blank, and you almost hit a plateau because there's
yes,
a language issue, a barrier.
yes. Yes, you can't talk your way out of some of these things,
Yes.
especially trauma. And trauma
Mhm.
looks different for everybody, right? There's like big T trauma, little T trauma, and these things stay stuck in the body. And so I have a brain model. I always use this with clients. And so if we were to kind of cut open our brains, right now we're using this part of the brain. This is we're talking, right? We're thinking and we're talking. But that's not where emotions live. Emotions aren't in this part of the brain, and memories and trauma, that's all stored in the subcortex. So that's deep inside of the brain. And oftentimes, when I have clients that are using brain spotting, they'll access an emotion and they're like, I don't know how to describe this, or something's coming up but I don't have the words. And I always encourage them to don't you don't even have to try, because there may not be words attached to that, because it's not in that part of the brain. And so when you allow yourself to sit with the emotions and allow that to process out, it's much more effective.
That like just had a brain explosion moment because in my own personal experience, there have been, conversations of like, well, what does that feel like? I don't know how to describe it. It's a feeling. So in
Yeah.
some cases, I don't know if there's value in, well, it feels heavy. I don't know. It feels
Oh, yeah.
um sticky, or trying to describe a feeling is so dang hard. So I think it's just stop trying to name it,
Mhm.
which I think is hard for a lot of
Yeah.
us. We want to like
Oh,
label
absolutely.
everything. Hmm.
Yeah. And one
Interesting.
of the like phrases in brain spotting, if you will, in like the community, is we may not know what it is, but we know that it is. And so even in the work with brain spotting research, which is continued research, there is research out there, but how exactly it works is still being researched more, because there's so much about the brain that we do not know. But practitioners, we know that healing is happening because we can see it for our own eyes, and we may not know exactly what's happening or how it's working. And the same thing with emotions. We may not know what exactly the emotion is or what it's telling us. We just know that the emotion is there. There's information in that.
Right. And I think that's a great segue to acknowledge that this is why this is done with someone who is trained specifically to analyze that, because we know through our clinical experiences that there's improvement. Maybe we can't write a dissertation as to the why and the anatomy and the synapses and the chemicals. Maybe we're not there yet, but you're a trained clinician, so that if we're bringing up feelings, that you have the tools to help sit with that client, as opposed to we're just going to YouTube it, figure it out, and play around. And then you pull up these feelings
Yeah.
and you're like, oh my,
Yeah, I maybe
now what?
wouldn't suggest that. And I do teach clients how to self-spot. And
Different, I
so,
think.
in moments of dysregulation, right? Like how to ground and calm and resource. And there's ways to do that. And I always tell them, like, do not self-spot on a trauma or a really big negative feeling. I don't do that alone, and I'm trained in this, right? The attunement and having someone there to hold space for you, and to be able, I mean, if I have this and I'm going across, I can see when a client has a brain spot. I can tell by looking at them in the neurobiology where some information is. I don't know what the information is, but I can see it there.
What might it
But
look
yeah, I
like?
always tell people to please do not do this at home alone.
I know we love like going online. I could teach myself.
Yeah. Yeah.
What might you see? So if you have someone in front of you, either virtually or in person, and you're doing, that sequence, what might you see that you're like, ooh, there's something there?
So if I'm kind of going across like the visual field and I'm trying to find a brain spot with the client, and they're able to access how they're feeling and where they're feeling it, if I move slowly and I'm tracking across that axis, I'll stop at different spots where I notice reflexes. So I notice their eyes start fluttering, or they're right, or just like a twitch, or a lot of it's in
Discomfort.
the eyes. A
Yeah.
lot of it's in the eyes because the eyes are the external part of the brain.
Yes,
There's so
ma'am.
much in the eyes. And so we go across and, I'll check in with the client. What do you notice there? Oh, I'm feeling a lot more anxious. All right, let's keep going. And I'll find another brain spot and I'll stop. And what are you checking in there? Not so much there. And the people that are a little hesitant with brain spotting, I don't know what I'm doing. Am I going to mess it up? I mean, it's the most intuitive work I've ever done. It's really like almost anybody can do this.
Mhm.
And their body, they're like, oh, okay, I'm gonna look at a spot and I'm gonna feel something. I'm like, yeah, let's try it. And we find it, and then they're sobbing and they're like, what is happening? You're a wizard.
Yeah, I think it's all just curiosity. Our body has so many tools, and we're just discovering more and more access points for healing. And the moment that we had this conversation, weeks ago, and using the eyes, and I have some familiarity with EMDR, um,
Yeah.
but to your point, that optic nerve is hardwired right into your cortex. So everything that we're taking in here is stimuli in some way, shape, or form. And to hear that a practitioner is kind of harnessing that for healing and recovery, it's like, well, yes, I'm using it. I'm using it in my practice
Mhm.
for mobility and stiffness. When I find if I'm doing convergence, I can have one or two reactions. One, blink, blink, blinkety, blink, blink, or they get fidgety. They don't like it. So I wouldn't train that. I know that that
Mhm.
point is, I wouldn't call it a spot like you would call it a spot. I would say, well, that's not the type of stimulus I want for
Yeah.
relaxation. But if I go
Yeah.
side to side, smooth pursuits, and they're like, okay, I could bend further towards my toes. Great. Then we like to use that. So
Mhm.
it just, I don't know, lights me up to hear that the eyes are finally getting the attention that maybe they didn't get enough of, and more people are open to what is this voodoo? Who
Yeah.
cares? It
Yeah.
is, it works,
It
it's
works.
science,
Mhm.
and it's an opportunity to explore. So, yeah. If someone wants to explore brain spotting, learn more about it, I know your website has a lot of information. I definitely have visited and you have some good information. If someone is curious about what would that work look like, what does that process look like?
So yeah, my website, tgcct.com, has some information on there about brain spotting and beginning services with the growth chapter with brain spotting. Brainspotting.com is a great website. So people can also find practitioners in their area. So if you search up Connecticut, you'll find brain spotting practitioners or wherever you are in the States. And there's a lot of research and publications and stuff like that on there. There's also YouTube videos, honestly. So I know we were talking about maybe not
Use it
using
for
it to figure out
treatment,
how to do it yourself, but
but if you
for
want to learn
research,
about it,
yeah,
yeah.
for research. And then actually, there's actually a good book that I have. It's called Brain Spotting.
Ooh,
It's by
original
David
title.
Grand, who is yeah, right? And this talks all about kind of like how he started it, what he found when he started it, everything about the neurobiology, brain spotting in the body. So if someone really wants to hone in and, get a beach read for the summer, or, just to really learn more, this is really a fabulous
Cool.
like
I love
go-to of mine.
it. I think I actually saw it at my library, to be quite honest. They have a little pillar on all this neuro stuff, and
Yeah.
I've seen that title. Well, I'm so excited that we are doing this. Our technology is functioning in our favor, and I just am thrilled to have you part of my provider Roladex. I think it's really important to create connections with other practitioners in the community, because I'm a believer in all ships rise with the tide, but also it's team approach. We all bring certain things
Yes.
to the table, and at the end of the day, our client and patient health should be top priority. And I think working together with other like-minded professionals is a great way to do that, to meet them where they are. So, Ashley, thank you. I'm so grateful that we made this work with the time. And I'm excited just future collaborations. I love to be outrageously open in terms of who knows what can come up for us.
Yeah. And thank you so much for the work that you do in connecting with me.
Yeah, my pleasure. It was a natural connection. So, thank you. And I look forward to connecting again soon.